Well, we're back for another Mental Health Monday with the Refuge, and really grateful always to have this space that my friend Joe Rainey from the Refuge and Mindful Member Care created at the very beginning of COVID. Not knowing really what was going to happen, we knew that no matter what, it was going to take a toll on our mental health to have such a radical shift in culture and in the way that we moved in the world and the ways that we connected. So we are currently now on almost 5 months. We're coming on 5 months this week.
Wow.
5 months. Crazy. And one of the things that we know to be true even more now is just how much we need help for the journey to last and be as healthy and sustained and supported as we possibly can. So today we are really grateful to have with us our friend, Father Scott Jenkins. He's been a good friend of the Refuge for many years, really since the start of the Refuge 14 years ago. He's the chaplain at Mile High Ministries, which is something that if you don't know about, make sure and look up. They're an amazing organization here in Denver. And Joshua Station is one of our core partners. It's transformational housing for families. He is also the now a retired, is it ecumenical Catholic? Is that what you're?
That's close. Yeah, ecumenical. Mm-hmm.
Ecumenical Catholic priest. Is retired now, but he is the founder and I can't remember your exact title now. I want to say executive director, but that's not what you're doing.
That's scary.
Yes, and so he's the cultivator and the catalyst of Celtic Way, which is really a special place here in Denver that is also beyond Denver because there's no walls, and it really is to move conversations about Celtic Christianity, Celtic spirituality forward, and to really support people in all different ways. And so Father Scott's been to the Refuge many times and shared with us. He's a companion for the journey, and exactly I think what we need to sustain are just people who know how to hold space and are walking through this on their own journey, and then also trying to walk with others during this really difficult time.
Yeah.
So super glad to have you here. Scott's a good friend and just grateful for his presence. And just a reminder that the discussion questions will be in the description box under the YouTube clip, and then also in the show notes of the podcast, wherever you get the podcast. So just take some time. Scott always has great content, and it's even better when you take some time to sit with it and digest it and meditate on it. And so looking forward to hearing what you have to share today, my friend.
Thank you. Good to see you. Yeah.
You too.
Well, you want me to just take off?
Go for it.
Okay. Taking care of myself through this whole 5 months, you say? That just stunned me when you said that, because Chris and I have actually been quarantined about a month ahead of that because of a medical problem she had. So yeah, it's been a good half of a year. I want to tell you that my journey into this at first was so turbulent. Kathy, I think the first thing that I had to recognize was that this is real, and it's going to, and I've said all along, Chris could quote me on this is going to be a lot longer than we anticipate. This is going to be a lot harder than we can imagine right now. And that turned out to be true. But my first response to this whole episode was denial. You know, I just was trying to go about my day a little bit like life had happened. But then that ran out because I listened to a podcast by the poet David White. And he said, during this time, you know, we should make room for our own life. That was really hard for me. I mean, having gone through 12-step and spiritual direction and all sorts of like introspective stuff, here I was with all this time in my hands, and I was face to face with nobody but myself. And so I did a very painful review of life, and it was a struggle. It was rewarding towards the end, but getting through it, you know, was this whole process of here I thought I was, and then I went through this really deep, just introspective stuff and came out at peace with myself like I haven't been before. Maybe I should just put a period there. I haven't really been before like that. It was really a gift, and it liberated me. And it really opened me up. Somebody said to me early on, maybe you've heard this, it's not cool to waste a good pandemic, right? We have this gift. And so and I can be very disciplined in my life. I've been a gym rat for over 20 years. I know what it means to discipline. So I began to order my days. And I think what was most healthy for me was coming to peace with some things that I had let go of in the past. Coming to terms with how to read the Bible in a life-giving way is something I needed to do for myself, and spent a good couple months going back through Richard Rohr's book and going through Living School notes and just really being honest with myself, because in my journey from evangelical to progressive, somewhere along the way, the Bible was like the thing to me, and I jettisoned it because I thought it was oppressive, which it can be, and all this stuff. But I just really wanted to make friends with that. So I did a lot of hard work around that, and I'm glad I did. But the other big piece for me, and I don't know if you've been, Kathy, I don't know if you've been to my house, but we live on the most immaculate, green, lush grass place with a beautiful pond and lots of wildlife, probably about 100 yards from our house. We have an entire crew of landscapers that take care of our front yard. Seriously. We live on a golf course. We live on the fairway. So I spend a great deal of time outdoors. I do a walk usually with Chris and our dog every morning, and now in the afternoon and in the evening. And our dog loves it, I think, or either that or she's like, oh God, are we going on another walk? But in the whole Celtic thing was for me coming back strongly to this core belief that inside of us is an infinite well of life and goodness that just comes up, that God gives to every person in the world, right? And so when I walk through this lush green place that's watered on the sprinkler system, because we have this awful drought going on right now, but I get back in touch with the greening, like Hildegarda Bingen, she talked about this greening that goes on into people. And a very slow walk through the golf course is appreciative and deep. In my morning meditation, which is part of my discipline, I can't imagine doing this walk in the same way before I really put on the whole contemplative clothing, to learn how to read in a lectio and meditative manner, to learn how to walk with deep awareness and appreciation to the world that's around me, because all of this nurtures me in ways that I'm certainly not rationally, logically aware of how this happens. But like when you go up to Beauty Hills, Beauty Heals, you don't have to explain to somebody how this works. You just have to sit and be aware and listen and see deeply and just take it all in and soak it all in. We are surrounded by geese and rabbits and squirrels and ducks. And the other day I opened the door to little bitty furry fuzzy ducklings and their mom. They were walking over to our neighbor's house because she feeds them every day, and there they were doing their little thing. And it's just so good to be surrounded by life, because in this time, that's what we need. The other balance that my wife intuitively did for us, she spent her own money and bought a really nice elliptical. It's in her office. And so we use it regularly. And we since we didn't get to go to London this year, listen to me like talking like this privileged world traveler, right? We didn't get to go to London this year. So we invested into a bike rack on the back of our vehicle and a couple of bicycles. We did a 5-mile ride yesterday, another one today. And if you fight depression like I do, and you don't want to be on meds, then you've got to get some exercise. And so there is this wonderful balance, right, between body, soul, and spirit that goes on, that whoever said that, don't waste a good pandemic. We have to do all three. I mean, not have to, but I have to be healthy. When my body's healthy, I'm eating right, I practice my meditation every day, and I do my walks outside in nature, then I'm given a good rhythm and a good balance. On Mondays at 12 o'clock, we do this thing on Zoom. Like, who doesn't do anything other than Zoom nowadays, right? We do this thing called soulful sharing. We got a lot of single, adult, older people. They live alone. They tell us every Monday how important it is, even just to come together like this, to see and listen to another human being, to share the story, share the journey. And Wednesdays we teach class, and Thursday nights we celebrate Eucharist together, and Saturday we have coffee hour with people. And it's just such a good, and it's such the other side of always being alone with the same person, right? I love my wife, don't get me wrong, but we need to give each other the gift of missing one another once in a while, right? And so with this whole social thing on Zoom that we do, we have a really, really balanced life. If I want to be mentally strong and healthy, I need all of these things operating. And it's up to me. Don't waste a good pandemic, right? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm gonna just switch it back to gallery view here. Yeah, thank you for those thoughts. So I'm horrible at discipline. So I'm wondering what, if you have any tips for the undisciplined.
I do, which is most of our society, I'm finding out,
Yeah.
because I do spiritual direction for people and with people. And that's such a huge problem. And getting motivated and feeling energized to be motivated to do discipline when you're in the house a lot, that
Especially
makes it,
with depression and mental health stuff.
Especially with depression. And then I say this, Joe, start a buddy program. Seriously.
You live down the street.
That's why I'm saying this. And I told you we're going to hook up and we're going to go to Utah Park. And I'm happy to do that, because when I first started going to the gym 20 some years ago, I had to have somebody who was like holding me accountable, So whatever religious tradition we're in, to be a disciple, a follower in that tradition, it takes discipline, right? Whether you're a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Christian or whatever it is, this is going to sound a little difficult, but I just think that in so many areas of our life, we're on it, When it comes to a spiritual practice, I think we're lazy. A lot of us, undisciplined and not consistent, but that's what it takes. And so get somebody who loves you, cares for you, is a friend, and says, time to get up, let's go for that walk. I'll meet you there. Right? Yeah. Got to have a team. Can't do it by yourself. That's
true.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I will say always that I sometimes like us to think of words that are substitutes for the same word that maybe help us. And when you were saying disciplines, I get it 100%. And some of us are more disciplined than others. But could substitute the word rhythms. And sometimes that might help some of us, like me, like what are the rhythms I could build in that will help me last. And they look different for all of us. That's what I love. So this is a great example where you're you're working still, but you're retired from your full-time ministry in the way that it used to be. And you guys can work from home, and there are some things that you have, but we all have something. And we all have unique situations. Some kids, no kids, resources, no resources, everything in between. And I think what I hear you saying is find a disciplined rhythm that brings as much health and balance in as possible.
Right.
As best we can, with as much grace and with as much honesty and all those things as possible. And for some reason, you made me think of this. And this happened before COVID because of a huge trauma and loss in my life, where I have a little vitamin thing, and it has the 7 days of the week.
Right.
I get so much crap in my family for this. Okay. And so, but I said, I want to stay healthy. I need every bit of help I can get when I'm so low. And you know what? I load that sucker up every week. And there's all the time I'm like, and I was like, no, that's one thing I can do.
Yeah.
And so it's a rhythm that I built in, and I am really grateful for. And I'm not saying it saved the day or anything, but I think it has helped. And I think the reminder for all of us is to find what a couple of those things are. And that outside thing, when you were talking about the little baby, ducks and green and water, there is something that happens in our bodies physically when we're outside that we really, really need.
Yeah, we had a social distance thing with my family yesterday with some cousins who just moved here from LA, or my younger cousin moved here from LA, and her dad was bringing her out. And we were just in my parents' backyard, and I just forget, because we live in Colorado, how much like random wildlife we have even in the suburbs in Lakewood. And there was a bunny in the backyard, and they were like, what is that, like a pet? And we're like, no, this is a bunny. And then there's like a squirrel on the line, and they were like, whoa. And then like all these birds, and our next door neighbor has chickens, and they were just in awe of the creatures, and coming from LA, where it's just concrete mostly. So just, that reminder of awe and that refreshment that we get from just being present when we allow ourselves and we carve out that space to get outside and be present to nature can be so sustaining and surprising.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you, Scott. We're really grateful to have your voice with us this week. And always our hope on all of this is that people just glean what they need. So we are centered on take and grab what you need for your story, your context, your situation, your everything. But I want to add one last thing that I thought of when you were just talking, Joe, is that I remember telling people sometimes, like, just now and then go outside and look up. And look up. Because, and especially now with COVID, like this is even more like we're just, we're like, and down and electronic, and just walk outside and look up. And so whatever that might look like for any of us, I hope that we somehow build it in and be gentle with yourself always, and then be open to surprises and amazing, wild, beautiful things that you might see when our hearts and our eyes are open. So look forward to any feedback. We love hearing what stirs up in you. And thank you always for your time to come and hang out with us.
Sure, you bet. Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye, friends.